Hey everybody, unfortunately, as you probably noticed, we can't record live on Twitch right now because they decided to mess with low-key streamers and have something weird happen with OBS. So what we're going to do is, what we decided to do is just record this and we'll throw it on our YouTube. Maybe we'll figure out a way to throw it on a Twitch at a later time, but since this is an issue, then we're just gonna pass on this episode for a live viewing. So, and as always, I'm Ben. To the right of me is Brian. Below me is Joel. And for those of you who weren't on Monday or Tuesday, we've got a new member of our cast, Brendan, in the bottom right. So Brendan has decided that he's willing to join us in our nerdery and talk nerd stuff and do nerdy things like play Dungeons and Dragons, and hopefully he enjoys it and doesn't hate us and our disorganization already. So
he's like, it's been 3 episodes and 2 of them have sucked.
Yeah, it's been 3 episodes that I've screwed up every time, except for this time. This is Twitch's fault. So yeah, I'll call it a win. We were about to just cancel the whole thing. So,
you know what is a trip though is 90% of the time it does work pretty much flawlessly, and then Brendan, you join and just nothing works the whole week. We get we're talking about the orcs, and you're like, I can't fuck with them this time, but I'll definitely will the other 2.
If this were the Renaissance, I'd be driven out of town for being an ill omen.
Yeah,
you're obviously a Dresdenish wizard, fucking with technology willy nilly.
Speaking of Renaissance era technology, Dungeons and Dragons.
It's like we're not getting off topic today, goddammit.
So we have a very limited amount of time, so probably
our time died because of technological breakdowns.
Right.
So, for those of you who are not aware, I'm going to be taking over as DM for at least until we get through this campaign module, and then we'll decide on something else to do. And this time around, we're going to be doing the Candlekeep Mysteries. For the Candlekeep Mysteries is basically is it near Baldur's Gate, or is it just on the Swords Coast?
It's on the Swords Coast. I don't know how.
Coast.
Yeah, so it's on the Swords Coast. It's an area in the Forgotten Realms, aka Faerun, where it is a giant library and magical library and repository of knowledge. Now, in recent times, there's been a number of mysteries that have been popping up in and around the library, and that is what our adventurers will be seeking to resolve. Whether it's jumping in, possibly, maybe this is spoilery, but whether it's jumping into a storybook or finding lost portals, destroying dragons and liches and all other random stuff, that's what our adventures will be getting into. So with that, I'm going to put it to, let's see. How about everyone roll for initiative to see who wants to talk about their character first? Give a quick.
I will actually pass. I will go second or third.
All right, Brendan, Brian, roll.
Yeah, let the new guy go.
11.
Okay, dice camera.
Ooh, nice.
That is a 15.
Blood dice. Daddy like it.
I got these from
right,
Tabletop
so
Loot. TabletopLoot.com.
Tabletop Loot. I didn't get those from Tabletop Loot. What is this bullshit? So, Brian, then we'll get started with you. What can you tell me about your character? I know we kind of discussed some party composition stuff, but anything... maybe go over what your character is going to be, and then we'll get into a backstory later for everybody else. Or we can just do that all at once. I don't care which.
You, sir, are the DM. You choose. Dealer's choice.
You are the boss.
Let's talk about what your character is going to be, and then give us a little backstory thingaroo about what's going on with him.
And by what my character is going to be, what do you mean by that exactly?
So, the normal stuff. Maybe tell a little bit about your stat sheet, maybe a little bit about just the basics, class, race,
Okay.
prospective subclass that you're thinking about going into, since we're not there yet, since we're starting at level 1.
Yeah. So then my character is a Asimar, who is, well, I mean, if you don't know what an Asimar is, they are basically the celestial versions of Tieflings. They have celestial blood in them, or they are often the descendants of celestials, like angels and so on and so forth. And I took Monk for him. He is going to be Way of Mercy. And for those of you wondering where I fell as far as the sub race for Asmars, I went Protection.
A little bit of extra oomph on the healing side of things. So,
you could say that.
Do you want to go into his backstory right now, or do you have that prepared yet? Or
again, you're the DM boss. You know what?
I'm asking you if you've got it ready or not. If you've got,
I can fly with bullshit any day of the week.
Yeah.
Like
I don't.
I mean, yeah, you can fly with bullshit any day of the week, but at this point, it's session 0. You're setting this shit in stone, brother.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
I mean, you're making it canon.
What I can definitely tell you about is some of like his bonds, his flaws, his various things like that. So let's see here. For those of you keeping track at home, the first thing that comes up is personality traits, and because he is a far traveler. He is a man from a land down under. He has a strong code of honor that he puts priority to above everything else that people don't often understand. So the way I thought of that for this character was because I'm looking to go Way of Mercy. I want it to be where here in this land, he's noticed that everyone is very violent. Everyone tends to just kind of like, if someone comes at me, then I'm not holding back sort of thing. Whereas I want him to very pointedly try not to actually go all out with his enemies. I want him to very much try to hold back, and even if he can, save the people who are attacking him, even if that risks like later incidents. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want him to kill. I don't want him to just be another barbarian who just swings an axe into someone's face and be like, oh, yep, well, I mean, whatever, they came at me, so. The other personality trait that he has is that he expresses affection or contempt in ways that are unfamiliar to others. Mm-hmm. So, what I might have him do is, say, for example, if he dislikes someone, maybe what he does is, like, if he was always taught to keep your friends close and your enemies closer, maybe what he might do is he might he might express contempt for someone in a way that is very odd. Like, he wants to, like, kind of get in closer with them, because if he doesn't trust
he'll be
you,
nicer. He'll be even nicer to the people that he doesn't like.
Right. Yes.
Catch more flies with honey than with vinegar.
Yes, exactly. And if anything else, it makes it so that he doesn't have to do nearly as much fighting. Because if you kind of already like him, sort of thing, then you're probably not going to like try to kill him, which means he doesn't have to like defend himself nearly as often. Mm-hmm. As far as his ideas are concerned, he is very open about his ideas. He loves to learn from anyone and everyone who has something to teach him. He's not particularly smart, but he does like to kind of go around and like learn from different customs and codes and ethics. He finds it very interesting. As far as his bonds are concerned, he's very fascinated by the beauty and wonder of this new land. Keep in mind, he's not typically from like the area sort of thing, so one of the things I think I might have him doing is like he might, uh, whenever I ask the DM for something, I might not necessarily be paying attention to people around me. Maybe I'm asking what the area looks like, if there's anything interesting about the area that I would take note of.
Okay.
As far as, go ahead.
Sorry, we might be about to cover the same thing based off where you're starting that sentence. But for you, for far traveler background, are you considering that is he just like is it from another country, or is it from another continent, another country? Is it something like, is it just he's if you envision like a Japanese samurai that has been like plunked down in the middle of like Middle Age Europe, or is this like he stumbled onto Faerun from another plane, maybe perhaps of celestial origins? Because I know often sometimes Asmar are almost more of like a fallen angel or angel scenario.
I think that could play into it, although I'm thinking maybe he doesn't really know about that. Like, maybe he thinks he's a human, and maybe his parents didn't tell him who he is. Maybe they're the ones who are, like, the ones who came to the world to, like, try to protect humanity, and then it's just one of those things where, like, I'm from maybe a different country still, yes, but, like, maybe my actual place of origin a lot farther than even I realize.
Okay. So you're not. It's not like he just like showed up on a boat just now. He might have been in Faerun for a while. It's just he's kind of has been sheltered and doesn't all know like a lot of the customs and stuff.
More that he's been bumming around, sort of thing, and he hasn't really stayed in one place for too long to get like acclimated to the new culture, sort of thing. Okay. Like maybe he's I don't want to like. So I don't want to play this off in character, but almost think of it like someone who's backpacking around Europe. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You're there. You kind of get a little bit of the culture, but like you can't like actually speak the language or anything. You're basically just a tourist.
That's what I'm saying. Like in my mind, like there's a difference between like a far traveler that has been just traveling around, and because he's been traveling for so long, next thing you know, he's backpacked his way all the way from Asia to the UK, whereas a far traveler could also be someone that like stumbled through a door in the city of doors, and now he went from being in Eberron to being in Faerun. You know what I mean?
Yes, but I feel like that doesn't work so well when it comes to level 1.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense. Like, I think that, like, having him be, for most of his life, from this particular plane, and then just, like, traveling around, like, by foot sort of thing, is a lot easier to kind of, like, square when you're level 1. Whereas if we had started at, like, level 3 or 5, then maybe I might have considered him actually having a foot in another plane.
Okay. So he's just been drifting for a while, and then he finds himself here. Okay.
As far as his weakness is concerned, his flaw is that he has a weakness for the exotic beauty of the people of these lands.
What does that mean to you? Is he a horn dog?
I think that, well, I don't think he's a horn dog. In fact, I almost envision this character as being asexual.
Yeah.
As in, like, he doesn't really have much of a, like, actual sex drive.
You told me that flaw, and it sounds like you're a horn dog, so I'm just wondering.
Oh, yeah, no. I mean, that's how the easy interpretation of it.
Exactly.
I think that this character, more so than anything else, is very quick to trust people.
Okay.
Like, he wants to get in good with these people because he finds the beauty of the people around him, alluring. Like, he wants to be part of, like, their communities. He wants to, like, get to know these people. He wants to be able to trust these people. Like, because they're all so amazing and beautiful, and, like, it's just one of those things where it's like you want to be part of this thing. You want to be a part of these people and their lands, and like you want to learn about them. You want to like be around them. It's almost addicting to be in their presence.
One thing, another thing. This might be a little off topic, but what can you tell me about his appearance? I don't know if you gave us the name of your character.
I
we
did
know
not
already,
yet.
But...
Yeah.
Okay.
His name is Gideon.
Okay. What can you tell us about his appearance?
As far as appearance goes, those are some details I haven't.
ASMR has like a angelic trait. So
yeah. Well, so I imagine then if he has some sort of like particular look about him, like if aside from like just looking like a human, like if he's gonna have some sort of like trait about him that absolutely screams ASMR, then I might have it be something that's not immediately obvious. Like maybe it's his voice.
Okay. He's got a very sensual voice. Do you have a voice sampling yet, or
not yet? Although I have always considered that the best characters, or at least the most memorable characters, usually tend to have distinct voices.
Right.
Like whenever I'm running a campaign, or whenever
I've
playing
found
as
the
a
same
character.
thing.
Yeah, I always try to come up with some sort of distinct voice for myself.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe what I might even do is, rather than have it be his voice, maybe he's just very calming. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like he's one of those people who, like, you don't even really understand why, but he's very easy to talk to, sort of thing.
Okay. Did you have anything else you wanted to add, or?
I think we can go to someone else at the moment.
Okay.
Yeah.
Joel, Brendan, who wants to go next? Brendan, or Joel wants Brendan to go.
Oh, do I not have to roll for it anymore?
No. Joel is acquiescing.
He is taking a hold action.
Yeah.
He's deferring. Okay. I'll be playing the Baffler. He's a level 1 rogue. He will be multi-classing into Mage Thief. He is technically racial human, but he's been shadow touched. So his family has a magic lineage, and his parents could only afford to send his elder sister to a prestigious magic college. So they still wanted him to sort of have a decent upbringing. So they sent him in his prepubescence on an apprenticeship to what they thought was a watchmaker's and a jeweler's and that sort of thing. What they didn't realize is that it was a front for a criminal organization called the Pocketers, and it was essentially a youth academy for making expert burglars. And he was told very early on that he could leave of his own volition, but he was very far from home. But they're like, you can leave, or you can stay here, and we will train you, we will feed you, that sort of thing. So he, at a very young age, chose, like around the age of 12, chose to stick around. And the Order of the Flaming Fist got tipped off, and before he could complete his training, they knocked over what's called the workshop, this place where these kids were being trained. And they knew they had contingencies, so they were trained to meet at certain places or like stay low and we'll find you here. And what he chose to do instead was to run. So he has a name that he's chosen not to give to his compatriots. The DM will know it, but he sort of built this reputation for himself because he has latent arcane ability and uses it to help him steal. So there's a bit of a reputation in the paper and stuff. And he realized that doing these small scores to stay off the street is bringing him unwanted attention because he's no longer just trying to avoid the authorities. He is technically on the run from the organization that trained him because he was yearning for something else. And so he's gotten out of town. Candlekeep is pretty far from Baldur's Gate, so he's lying low, so as not to A, draw attention from the authorities, but B, from those who trained him. So he's in a conflicted sort of headspace right now.
Okay. And you said he wears, I believe we discussed, he wears a mask. Or what were you envisioning for that?
Yes. So essentially, the matriarch of the Pocketers right now is Lady Butcherbird, and she does not reveal her identity. and he sort of models himself off of her. Um, when you're in a situation that's socially rather reclusive, like being in essentially not really a military academy, but essentially a thieving academy, he's known the same 11 or 12 youths other than himself for a very long time. So he didn't have lots of exposure to the outside world except when he was on missions. So he's modeled himself after the limited number of role models that he has. The clockmaker is the dwarf who trained them all. So he was sort of his ad hoc father for a very long time. So he's a complicated relationship where this is a begrudging man of who has a code of stealing. You know, if you're gonna do something, do it well. But he also sort of is having moral quandaries about like, is this the right thing to do? To be like, is stealing right, or like, are we doing this because someone is telling us? What are our superiors making the right decision? Are we merely an extension of an immoral idea, and all these sorts of things? And so when he had his chance, he took it and he ran with it. So he not
How
only
long-
does he have magic to disguise himself, but he has a mask when he's in public.
How long was he with the organization?
So how old are the protagonists that are in this campaign? Do we have an idea? Because Asimar, I guess, age differently. Tieflings age differently. Are they youths?
I went with something kind of young-ish because I figured that like we're just now, actually getting over to our adventure sort of thing. Like I didn't want to make him too old because obviously you're going to have more experience then. So I made him 20.
Okay.
Yeah, the age is literally nothing. I just put an arbitrary number in there.
Yeah, I'll probably make. Yeah, so he entered at the age of 12. He very specifically did not complete his training because of these circumstances. So I'd probably put him at 20. Maybe
Is he very
maybe 20.
recently out, or has he been out for a couple years, or for?
Oh no. He's only been out for maybe a couple months.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, so I had him as 23 on the sheet. I could probably bump him down a little bit.
Mine's 22, so I put him at 33. But then your guys like younger, so I just made 22.
Okay.
If you guys want, I can be slightly older.
No, it's fine.
20-somethings going around.
Honestly, I can't. Now I'm just going to be a chaotic person because in your 20s you have no sense whatsoever.
Do you want to tell anything about your flaws or bonds or anything like that?
Sure. Let me find those. Yeah, so his personality traits, he's not an overtly, well, he's not overt about anything. I think he considers everything a latent conflict just from the way he was trained. So essentially when he meets people for the first time, it's like he doesn't want to show too many of his cards. If you show your cards, you're probably one of the first to leave the table. So I think for him, he has this sort of a caution that's just been trained into him. So he's also very distrusting of authority in general because his parents essentially sold him to a criminal organization, and he's grown up.
Didn't ask any more questions.
Right. He's been generally raised in an amoral kind of might makes right environment, and being around these 11 or 12 fellow youths, there are some who are aggressive who took the situation and wanted to run it, and he dislikes violence, although he's been trained for so long in violence. He doesn't particularly seek it. He doesn't particularly dislike anyone. However, one of his flaws is that it's starting to nag in his conscience how easily and how skillfully he can take advantage of others, either from social cues or from them leaving their back door open or whatever. It's starting to weigh on him that there's so much more to living than having someone else tell you to steal something. That he, on occasion, is drawn to the most mundane things, like, oh, fishermen, I wonder how they get the rigging up. It's, oh, yeah, right, I have to do this. So he's sort of a flaw of his is that he's drawn to anything interesting to him. Like he tends to steal books. So he right now he's stealing just to survive when he's so used to taking big shiny things for superiors. Let me look off the sheet here. Yeah, his bonds are what draws him closer to people more than anything is ability. He feels like if he sees someone who's trained at something for a very long time and is good at it, it takes discipline to have achieved that. So he sort of looks for those who are skilled at something before he opens up with his character. He's sort of rather reserved in that way because he had to be. Yeah, he's quick to exploit those who are vulnerable, and it weighs on his conscience. He clings to those whom he respects. He'll do whatever it takes to find his sister. While he was in captivity, he was allowed to write letters out. What he didn't know is his parents were on the take from the Pocketers for allowing him to be in the organization. So his sister is in graduate school and doesn't recognize that the Pocketers essentially have funded her education. So he hasn't heard from his sister in 5 months. So he probably wants to see how she's doing. He has a contentious relationship with his parents. Obviously, he hasn't seen them for.
So they used selling their son out to fund the favored daughter's education.
Yeah, he has not. He hasn't talked to them for 5 or 6 years, so it's a very contentious.
So he actively speaks to his sister.
They had written correspondence, and since everything got blown up, well, not literally blown up, but since he's on the run, he hasn't had a way to communicate with her for some time, and so it's gnawing.
Hold on a second.
But yeah, his ideals are that he strives to be good at his craft, and there's this nagging voice in him to explore the arcane just because it's in his bloodline.
Where does she study?
So it's called Ten Fingers. Is the organization. Back in the day, you could not graduate without all of your fingers intact, because they were very demanding of your accuracy and your discipline with casting. So back in the day, it was very simple. It's if you could get through the curriculum with all of your fingers intact, you would graduate. So the name stuck. It's old blood. It's kind of Ivy League in the way it's run, and it's exorbitant.
Where is that? Baldur's Gate, or is it like a long distance away?
I would say it's an I would put it in just because it's south down the coast, but it's an area of old money and prestige. It's not impossibly far away, but I would say I'd put it in the storyline I've written.
Okay.
Yeah, so his ideals are that he strives to be good at his craft. He seeks out anything magical. He quietly hoards information, and he's looking for something more than just self-defense classes and stealing.
It's interesting that he didn't blame his sister for his plight, because I'm assuming that living in this environment wasn't exactly nice.
It's a very complicated relationship because what little he knows about himself is from her, and
it's like his only thing connecting him to the outside world, essentially.
Yeah, in a violent, amoral environment, they would play like board games, like chess or whatever. They play by mail, so they'd have their movements by mail and everything. And so it's the clockmaker had a sort of strange ethos that he looked up to. He has contentious. He has a friend called Ganav, who was one of the fellow students who he doesn't know his whereabouts because he ran. There are also students in the class that don't like him so much that I have in the sheet. And also the leadership of the Pocketers are rather dubious at best. So he has sort of some frenemies. He also doesn't know how they feel about him now that he's on the run. He doesn't know how many of his students were arrested or whatnot. He took the opportunity, realized there's something more, and bailed. So
decided once he got there, he was like, got out. He's like, oh shit, I don't need to be here anymore.
There's so much more out there than what was delivered, than what was presented to him. Yeah.
Okay.
I know why he's got 7 charisma.
Anything about his appearance?
Yeah. So during the day, he's obviously not gonna walk around strapped in the street. His hair is completely blanched white from his lineage. So during the day he walks around mundanely. At night he wears a mask, or when he's out on operations, he wears a mask to conceal himself.
Okay.
I feel like if he were at Candlekeep, you have to carry your weight in Candlekeep, so he'd probably be working the hay or dusting the libraries or whatnot. I don't know if he'd wear a mask at all times. I think he'd look ridiculous, but he'd certainly be very to the chest about his background and that sort of thing.
So you're saying your compatriots would know your true face then?
Yeah, he wouldn't be absurd.
Yeah.
He wouldn't be like Boba Fett or anything like that.
He's not Mandalorianing it. Got it.
Right, but
Okay.
but they also don't know his true name.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, we were talking about how like your white hair would be two anime protagonists, and I was like, it kind of ties into the Shadowfell lineage thing, but
Well, the other he can cast invisibility on self,
Wow.
and he can change his appearance magically. So
no, he's pale. He's got pale skin, gray eyes, and white hair. So it's not very.
No, I didn't hear
strong.
the pale skin.
Yeah.
I was like,
he probably buzzes it on the sides, probably keeps it cropped, and he always has a hood on. But he also is so used to changing his appearance if he's on ops, then
Yeah, because you took disguise self, I think, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I apologize. I don't know as much about the other two characters because I was right there for Brendan's character creation for like 3 hours the other night. So.
And I'm sorry. What name do your compatriots know you by again?
He goes by the Baffler, so they probably call him something shortened from that. Just because that's what the papers called him. So
He baffs.
Yeah. He's not Bishonen, so he doesn't have like head to floor braided white hair. He's not Sephiroth or anything like that. It's kept short. It's kept functional. He doesn't wear makeup or it's not anime, but it is blanched.
Okay. Any last things before we move on to Joel?
Probably the fact that some in the organization know that he's arcane.
Mm-hmm.
So the clockmaker probably knows. His fellow students don't know. So it was a very competitive environment. It's kind of like I wouldn't say like Top Gun, but there was always a need to appear the best because.
So it's like you have a test and you like use your invisibility to get around some guards or something, and then all of a sudden you're like, "How did you get in there? I couldn't do anything."
Yeah.
I don't know.
He caught a lot of flack in a competitive environment for. He wasn't necessarily overtly like, "I'm going to be the best." Like so who's going to be second today? He was very quietly efficient because of magic and drew the ire of his rivals because of that. So not everyone in the organization knew that he had magic.
He wasn't the best. He was just better than them.
Exactly. Yeah. He didn't try to be better. He just had an ace in the hole.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else?
Anything else you want is probably on the character sheet pertaining to characters that know him.
Okay. So, yeah, we'll just keep that on the DL for now. So, Joel.
yeah, that was a lot. You had an entire character.
He spent I swear he spent 8 hours working on this character. Like
forever DM.
And apparently you were there with him writing questions to ask about him. Like, what was his thought on his 7th birthday? Was he spurned as a child? Good God.
I love writing, man. I love it.
He was just giving me like a lot of hooks that I could ask questions about.
Yeah,
so.
yeah.
Yes, mine you will not ask questions about. I will get through it, and that will be it.
You underestimate me, Squire.
I am playing a tiefling named Dolmek Algioth. He's a tall, slender one, 22 years of age. Typical tiefling characteristics. Simple attire. He is a grave cleric.
He will be a grave cleric. He's a cleric right now. He will be a grave cleric.
No, he's a grave cleric from the beginning.
I see.
That's what it said.
Oh.
Yeah, you could pick.
I didn't know clerics could pick their domain that early.
Yeah, no, they pick their domains at level 1. Okay. Most other places get subclasses at 3.
Yeah,
although wizards also get their school at 1.
That's true.
Yep.
No.
That was a bullshit question, and you don't get that.
I forgot. The only time I played a wizard and a cleric, I was already like level 3 or whatever, so it was already past.
You played a level 10 cleric. You started at level 10.
Yeah, I started at level 10 for my cleric, and I started at like level 3 or 5 for my wizard, so I didn't have to like think
do
about
anything.
That
He's already like super established as being like the baddest motherfucker in the building. He was a good character. That guy was cool.
Both of them.
All right, let me get his background. Now suddenly it's not wanting to work. All right. Do you want me to go over his backstory or just his?
Let's start. I think let's start with physical appearance first.
Well, he's tall. He's about my. I'm going to put him in my height, about 6'1". He's not my weight. He's 175 pounds. Slim. He's got reddish horns that are like, but they look like they're starting to like blacken at the tip. You know, like kind of like age. So it's
What
like
kind of horns are they? Like swept back? Or are they like?
They're like the up and over in the
Okay.
back. They're like over
Like
the top,
the,
like kind of like the headband kind.
Okay.
But since he's young, they're like little kid horns, so they're not like they haven't turned the black sheen that is before. That he'll get as he gets older.
He's got a tail, cloven hooves.
No tail, no tail. He's got regular ass feet,
Okay.
but he does have the black eyes and the red skin.
Okay.
He takes his mannerisms are very gentle. Like he's aware of what he appears like, and he wants to come across as not a threatening. So he tries to be very cautious in his movement, in the way like he's not gonna be an excitable character. He's all about like creating the soothing presence. He's a big believer in the circle of life and comfort, not his comfort, but the comfort of other people. And I'll get more into that when I read his backstory.
Okay, let's get into that then.
He is all of it goes into his backstory. I'll just go with his bonds and then I'll read his backstory, which is written down. Personality traits, there's nothing more that he likes than a good mystery. His ideals, there's no limits. Nothing should fetter the infinite possibility inherent to all existence. He's been searching his whole life to the answers to a certain question. And that question is a personal question. The question is not a secret. The question is, how am I the way that I am? Flaws, I can't keep a secret to save my life.
Why?
Huh?
How or why?
How? Not why, it's how. Like, how is it possible with his... And it'll be clearer when I read his backstory. He does have a tendency to have a very rich inner monologue that sometimes comes out. So he talks to himself from time to time. And so that's where we're going to get the like noir, you know,
so
the wet night.
Joel,
between my hooves. Yeah, that kind of thing. So he tends to talk to himself.
Me and Joel discussed this character, and we decided it'd be hilarious if we had a character that would like basically go off,
every
and
so
like
often.
know our monologue, but like it's allowed,
and everybody can
and
hear
everyone's
it.
Like just like it's like I walked in and this beautiful woman with legs for days and hair like fire, and cans like whatever.
Yeah,
like,
no one can hear you.
And Ken's like Bush's baked beans.
Yeah, so I thought that was just delightful. So I decided that he's going to do this. He spent a fair amount of time pretty much with just him and one other person.
Yeah.
And so he has a tendency to just ramble. He does have a house in Candlekeep, and he does have a small business in Candlekeep. His allies are a lady named Deborah Murr, who is a lady who raised him and taught him the ways of who he follows, which is Saya 9, the Lunar Lady and the Mistress of Dreams. All right, so his backstory is as written. Unlike most tieflings, Dulmec's mother sought out his father. Kierla summoned the pit fiend Algioth and swore herself to him under the promise that he'd take her from the poverty that she lived in. Which he did, and he took her to a remote castle where he slew the family that lived there and took on the guise of a human man, and named himself Tormric Algioth and set himself up as monarch, in which he ruled with a cruel iron hand. Kirla grew to love him, admiring his cruelty and seeing it as a sign of strength. The pair wed, and she bore him a son, Dolmek. But unlike his father, Dolmek was unable to mask his infernal heritage. His red skin, black eyes were a visible sign to the court that Algioth was more than it seemed. Things became worse when Dolmek began to enter manhood. He started to grow horns. Questions started to arise, and people began to talk that the court of Algioth was ruled by fiends, and there was mutterings of enlisting clerics and paladins to out the fiends. Algioth had no interest in a fight, lest he be killed and banished back to the hells, since his only focus was to stay on Faerun as long as possible. He banished his son and made claims his son was an imposter and the result of those who opposed him. Which is odd what is odd is that he refused to put the blame on his wife, whom he actually seems to care for, which is highly unusual for a fiend. Kirla in the more recent years is showing signs of fiendish youth and vitality. Dolmek finds himself exiled and with very little skills to keep himself alive. Disgusted with the world at large, believing it to be a place of cruelty, decided that he would go into the wilderness and accept his fate. Many days pass and he is on the brink of starvation. Weak from hunger, he comes across a small hut where an old human female is tending a very sizable garden centered around a large moonstone. The woman identifies herself as Deborah Murr and claims to be the only human worshiper of Cia9, the Lady of Dreams. She invites Dolmek inside, feeds him, and lets him rest. Dolmek spends years with Deborah and begins calling himself Murph out of respect for her, and as a way to reject his cruel past and infernal heritage. She teaches him about the circle of life and respect for the living. He spends years working and learning to understand the nature of Cia9, but has never received a response from her. Dolmek accepts this because he does not have any elven heritage. Cia9 typically only accepts elven followers. One night, he dreams of a beautiful, youthful, yet ageless-looking elven maiden who tells him that his devotion has impressed her, and despite his heritage, she has use for him. She sends him the image of a fortress on the Sword Coast, and she has heard whisperings of the undead stirring there. Dolmek is overjoyed to have a purpose and the attention of the deity he strove to impress. He arrives at Candlekeep, but received no further guidance from his goddess. Citadel is a massive library, and he immersed himself in study to pass the time. Learning several languages and about a number of religions, he earned coin by aiding those in need and performing burial rites for those who passed. It turned out these elegant yet simple ceremonies gave a sense of peace to the families, and he found himself able to purchase a place to do business in a small, modest apartment. Dolmek and Deborah remained close while returning from one of their regular visits. That same maiden visited him in a dream. "You have not disappointed," she said, and pointed down the road at two figures. "It is time." That's his backstory, which leads right up to where he'll meet you guys.
Okay.
I like the silence where you're all like, "Wow, that sucked."
No,
Shut
it
up,
was-
Joel. I was processing it. Stop being
No.
so condescending to yourself.
Ours were conversational. Yours was narrative.
Yeah.
Set a tone.
I do better with the narrative writing, but yeah, I like the idea of, first up, like every tiefling is so and so's violated by a devil or something, but this one was like, I like the idea of like
She wanted that devil.
she
Like
wanted
indeed.
it. She wanted to give herself to the. She didn't really know what she wanted. Essentially, his mother, when you find her, she's not going to be the brightest bulb in the box. She just knows she found a spell, summoned something, was like, "Yeah, whatever you want." He's like, "Nice tits," and off to the races. But then the thing is you're going to find like his dad is like fiercely protective, like ownership protective of the mother, and she like they're all. But that's a point. Like,
how was the father before the banishment?
what do you mean?
How was his devil daddy?
Horrible.
Be-
He's
Oh.
a pit fiend.
Okay, I mean,
He
sounds
treasures
like
one
he's-
thing.
Yeah. So he's
Well-
a dick to Dulmek, is what you're saying? Even
Not
before the
a dick.
banishment?
Like not like he definitely had a prized position because he is his son. But like he's one of those parents who will look at his child and be like, "You are weak," you know. Because but then also he was a little embarrassed because I mean the kid looked like he had fiendish blood from birth. Like it was black eyes and red skin right away.
Let's be real.
And like they were like, "Oh, he." Huh?
I said, let's be real. What did he think was going to happen? Like,
Yeah. Well, he didn't really plan a whole lot into it. I honestly think in the life of tieflings, like most of the time, the parents are like, "Oh, you could get pregnant from being banged." Weird.
Depends on the continuity. Sometimes it's like they had like a pact
Nah,
that they formed.
Yeah. So
this he was kind of like hidden, but he was definitely the Lord's son.
Mm-hmm.
But people talked whenever he was around, so he tried to keep it to a minimum, and he was okay with it. Like he tolerated him until they were like, "We're gonna get some clerics, and then maybe get some paladins to go take care of this." And he's like, "Yeah, I'm not going back." So
like, I don't need that kind of heat.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it was. It's good. It's a very selfish kingdom. Like everything is about getting what he wants. He doesn't give a fuck about his people. He just wants to make sure that they pay it so he can live his life as luxurious and be able to slap around as many people as you want. Just standard fantasy evil villain,
So he's been in Candlekeep doing his library duties.
Not library duties. He studies. That's what he does. He keeps to himself for the most part.
He studies in Candlekeep and he does his cleric duties, sort of like with burial ceremonies and stuff.
Now, one thing I deliberately put in the backstory is he has level 1 cleric abilities. So he doesn't have anything else. Like he could do some minor healings, but the majority he makes his money by doing burial passes, like by doing internments, by doing burial rites, because they're very elegant and very simple, but have a lot of gravitas to it. Okay. So it feels like it's like you go somewhere and it feels like something significant just happened, and that's what people pay him for. So his business is called the House of Gentle Repose. Okay. He has had it for maybe a little over a year. He came to Candlekeep about a year ago, and just that's all he does. He studies, and he works there.
So that would explain his cloistered librarian status, where he has sort of access to Candlekeep and he can study there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But he got it by in not being part of the library, but more like doing enough services where they're like, yeah, you could come in. Like he's done the favor for the librarians. He's healed somebody. I haven't decided exactly where, but the doors to the libraries are open to him.
So now this is kind of my thing because I'm the DM, but I'd also like to hear, now hearing the three of your backstories, how would you guys like to have met each other? Is it, do you already know each other? Do you need to meet? Do you need to, already be working together?
I was under the impression you had wanted us to meet outside of Candlekeep.
So
It lends itself to expediency for us to have known each other as we start the game, probably.
Okay.
But from Joel's backstory, it sounds like we don't it sounds like we're just now meeting each other. So I don't know if
I can add to it, but I didn't know what names you were, and I can add that we got in there. You guys could work with me, or live with me. I don't care.
I don't care about expediency. Fuck it. Okay. Let's figure it out now. How did you guys meet each other?
I know for a fact that Baffler is perfectly happy to be somewhere A, that is not urban, B, feeds him for simple work, and C, is loaded with books. So he's probably just like
all three of those things.
Yeah. So he's on cloud 9, just there's a book on knots. Oh my, like sailing.
Yeah.
And why don't
herbiology? Yeah.
Okay.
We could be I could be familiar with you from the library.
So
that's the only place I go.
I know we had talked to Joel about you having returned from your travels. You went to go see your mother.
Adopted mother. Yes.
You went to... Okay, my bad. You went to go see your patroness.
Yeah. No, not patroness. What is that? Is that the god?
No,
patroness or god?
Not the way I was thinking.
Okay, I know what you're saying. Yeah, the lady who taught him.
You went to go to talk to your mentor, and
yeah, Yes.
So, Brian is a far traveler. Sounds like the Baffler is, or sorry, Gideon is a far traveler. Sounds like the Baffler is maybe on his way to Candlekeep. Perhaps you guys met on a wayside tavern. And
Well, mine just says 2 figures down the road. That would fill perfectly with the dream of you were going to keep your eye out and meet people on the road.
I like this.
So I like the idea of actually meeting it in a tavern. Like that's how we met. For some reason,
you met at like a maybe a Blue Dragon Inn along the Sword Coast.
Yeah, and all the tables are filled, and I had to sit next to somebody.
Yeah.
What are you doing? Stop talking. I'm
just
gonna sit down and be like, I had a dream about you. Are these one of the figures from my dream? Fine. They bear a striking resemblance to the character, and they'll be like, "What the fuck are you talking about?"
Yeah, all right. I can work with this. One thing, it sounds like both everyone. So it's not, Joel, you're already somewhat established. You've been given a goal by your goddess to delve into the mysteries of Candlekeep.
Yes, she believes that there's undead. You're gonna find out how I plan to run this goddess in this one. Is she believes that the undead are everywhere.
Yeah. Well, I'll decide how your goddess runs. Thank you very much.
I've decided. You're right. I don't have that much power. Fuck! My character kills himself.
But
my turn!
This is the part where you rage quit 5 weeks down the road and get tired of me DMing and go back to being
Only if everybody gets hammered and wanders off. Then I will start being like, I can't do this.
Anyway,
I need the players to actually invest because I can't focus if they're not.
So my thought is, Joel, you already have sort of access to Candlekeep due to your cloistered librarian background.
Yes.
But so you could sort of be a guide to get the Baffler and Gideon in. At the same time, one thing you will know is that in order to gain access to Candlekeep, you must present a book, a thing of an object of literature of some kind that
I'm aware
that is perhaps
keep
unique,
notes.
Perhaps is useful to the characters.
I keep notes of where I've gone for that exact purpose.
Okay. So, would you say that during your travels you found a couple of those wish list items?
What I do is I bring back when I go visit. I take notes of whatever I see.
Some of the scholars of Candlekeep have sort of wish lists of books that they want.
I don't have. I did not plan a book. What I did plan was to bring back notes and like drawings of the plants that are grown in the unique plants grown in my mentor's garden. Because they grow right at the altar of say a 9.
Yeah.
And so they're weird. And so I bring stuff back of moonstone bathed flowers.
Okay.
That I give to the scholars.
So that's your ticket back in. Would you say that you would so obviously you'd be able to impart that knowledge upon your fellows.
Yeah.
Brian Baffler or Gideon Baffler.
What?
Gideon,
Baffler. Baffler.
Oh. Okay.
Do you think you guys currently might have an object of literature that might be of use to the front guardians of Candlekeep?
It's gonna pain Baffler because like the only book he'd have on his person. Well, I mean, it's easy to steal things. It would be hard to steal things and hold on to them because it's very difficult to have personal space or to have had personal space. I think the only book that he would have had on him would have been something of great personal value. It's probably something that his sister sent to him.
Okay.
So it would pain him to do so, but I think it's probably like formative children's stories.
You don't think he booked it with a book from the Pocketers?
I think he would have. All right, yeah. So good point. Like he does have a code book on him, but I don't know if he'd have the stones to hand in
a code book,
confidential information to a library.
Like beyond that, just like maybe something like,
I like the idea that he hands Candlekeep a book.
Tolmec Sticky Fingers 10 tips on pickpocketing, or
I envision the character having taken a book on thieving, stealing it from a different library, and then handing it into Candlekeep with the stamp page from a different library on it as he hands it in.
I love it. I love it.
It's like, right. Well, I returned it, didn't I?
Gideon. And if you don't want to think of it now, but for the first episode, you will have to have a book in order to get in. So, or some mark of literature that can be anything from because the Candlekeep doesn't just hold books. They have anything that might be they have anything. Could be lost recipes, old songs, collections of folklore, journals written by people, all kinds of things. So,
actually, I do have something. Give me 1 second.
Can I make up the name of the library I work at?
What do you mean, make it up?
Like, are there actual names of libraries in Candlekeep?
Candlekeep is one gigantic library. It's not like
okay.
I feel like you're viewing it as like a city, and it's not. It's like a library. It's a fortress library. So like basically the outside of like the library part is like a courtyard that has like an inn, some like places for travelers to study.
All right, well, I'm adding a little piece to mine.
So there's a smithy, there's a temple, a granary.
Well, I just added one piece. Because the cloistered scholar, I need to actually have the robes and everything. So, I've just added the Citadel's a massive library, and he immersed himself in study to pass time. Eventually, joining the library, specializing in the study of unusual plant varieties.
Okay.
All right.
So I've been collecting a number of different things that I find interesting from various places, or just like taking pages out of books or taking down posters that look interesting that are hung up in like cities and stuff like that. So I need you to give me a number 1 through 13.
Nice.
I'm gonna roll for it. No, not that one. 5.
Okay. Oh, okay. So this is an exotic taverns menu that I just kind of like took with me.
I like it. I like it.
Yep. And it looks like a lot of their dishes, like it's almost very Ravenloft in a sense, where they've got like one of the things is like a wolf steak with sacrificial lamb blood sauce. They've got black chicken, intellect devourer flambe. They've got like a mandrake soup, or what was that one drink they had here?
What was this from? Like, outside of game.
Oh, Joel would know this. This is one of the documents in the Lich's library.
Oh.
Do you
From
remember this, Joel?
Ravenloft?
Do you remember this from our Ravenloft game?
I do. That's the one where we had to solve that codex or whatever,
Yes.
right? Yeah.
That is
That we
correct.
spent like an hour and a half trying to figure out.
You had a 2-hour time limit, yeah, and I
That
just
was-
kind of like,
That was the most frustrating thing ever and awesome at the same time. But yeah, I remember that one very well.
Interesting. So you'll have the guy will have something perhaps that will allow.
I mean, I can link you a scan of it right now, actually.
Well,
I mean, it's not going to do you much good at the moment because we're,
Right.
you know. But I mean, I
But-
can send that to you.
My reasoning is I wanted you guys to be prepared with some form of thing, like a book or recipe or whatever, form of literature, for when you guys first attempt to enter Candlekeep. So we're coming up on time here, so I'm going to kind of wrap things up, and I hope you guys enjoyed our little session 0. Again, unfortunately, we couldn't do it live because of Twitch difficulties. So this will be on our YouTube, and I don't know if Joel, if you're going to start doing this on the podcast side, or if we're going to keep.
I actually would like to spend a few seconds talking about this, with you guys afterwards. But I am toying with that idea.
I think it makes sense to like kind of start. I think the issue is we didn't start doing the podcast thing until we were like halfway through. But I feel like now we could sort of start a new campaign. Like,
I was
from the
thinking
get-go.
adding our the subscription,
Mm-hmm.
and giving that the access to our podcast.
Fine with me.
You know,
Yeah.
okay, because I was gonna edit all of our old campaign
Mm-hmm.
and then put it on the podcast. And so, since we're talking about it in the recording, we're going to be in the next few months taking our previous campaign and this campaign, and they will be available for the subscribers to our podcast. So, if you want to get the full video and everything on the podcast, you are able to.
Okay.
For $1.99 a month.
And then beyond that, we will be next week. I will be off on vacation, and it will be Brian, Joel, and Brendan who will be talking about world building and DM stuff and whatnot on both Monday and Wednesday. I think you said what you would officially be talking about, Joel, but if you could remind me.
We're going to be talking about world design and world building, like how our processes on creating the area we are going to be doing whatever adventure we come up with, whether you prefer modules or homebrew, your prep times, things like that. Some of the tricks we've learned DMing over the years.
Okay. So we'll be doing that next week, and I'll see you in a week and a half or so. Everyone else will see you on
Poison
Monday.
Study. We'll be back for Poison Study.
We'll be back for Poison Study, which I guess we need to figure out if we're streaming on Labor Day or not, but we can talk about that offline. So
we will. It'll still upload on the podcast exactly. So, all
everyone,
right.
Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on Monday. I've been Ben.
Yep. Joel,
I'm
thank
Brian.
you.
I'm Brendan.
And we'll see you again later. Bye-bye.